What are the characteristics of a godly man? And like I said earlier in the video, my list of what I was looking for in a spouse has changed drastically. And at the end of June, God said, I want you to give me your list on what you think you want. And I want you to receive a list from me on what you are looking for in a spouse. So God used Ephesians 5:25 through 33 for my list, quote unquote, of things that I'm looking for in a spouse. And I'm also going to expound on that. So when you read Ephesians 5:25 through 33, it says, husbands, love your wives just as Christ loved the church and gave himself up for her to make her holy, cleansing her by washing her with the water of the word, present her to himself as a radiant church without stain or wrinkle or any other blemish, but holy and blameless. In the same way, husbands ought to love their wives as their own bodies. He who loves his wife loves himself. After all, no one ever hated their own body, but they feed and care for their body just as Christ does the church. For we are members of his body. For this reason, a man will leave his father and mother and be united to his wife, and the two will become one flesh. This is a profound mystery. I am talking about Christ and the church. However, each of you must also love his wife as he loves himself, and the wife must respect her husband. So I can summarize all of what I'm looking for in a man by just that first sentence. Husbands, love your wives just as Christ loved the church. That means that my goal for a spouse, my goal for a husband, is to find a man that is so actively pursuing being more like Christ that he will love me like Christ loves me. And I'm going to give you a list of things that God was highlighting this morning when I was asking God, like, how do you love me that needs to be reflected in a spouse as well? So he speaks life with his words, even when I am wrong or needing to be corrected. There are going to be times where I believe something strongly that my husband, who is the head of the household, will not agree with me, and I don't want him to be mean or to berate or to degrade me. I want him to speak to me with kindness because that's what Jesus does. He speaks to me with kindness even when I'm very wrong. He's going to pursue what is best for my mind, body, soul, and spirit. It says here that in the same way, husbands ought to love their wives as their own body, but they feed and take care of their body. So I want my husband to care for my mental health, my physical health, my spiritual health, my emotional health, and to prioritize what is best for all of me, what is best for all of our children, instead of just what is best for him. Like I've said in multiple videos, guys, there are things that feel good that are not good for us. So I want a man that is going to pursue what is actually good for all of me and not what is just pleasurable now. That's going to be leading the family in healthy habits, leading the family in healthy emotional habits, leading the family in compassion and communication, and also leading me in purity even when we are dating. I understand that everybody has struggles. I have had sex quite a bit. And I just want to let you guys know that after leaving that and fully surrendering to God my purity and understanding how important purity is, if a man came to me and wanted to pursue me, and I asked him what his boundaries were, and he said, what are your boundaries? I would be like, skirt, stop. I want to know that you have your own boundaries and purity that you will not compromise on, because every other guy that I've dated has said they had boundaries physically and then has pursued and pushed and pushed and pushed until I gave in and gave them what they wanted. And I am not going to do that again. I am not going to compromise my purity for pleasure. I am not going to make you feel good or make me feel good and cause our judgment to be blurred. Like, I want a man who will pursue purity up until the point of marriage and lead me in that and will not compromise in that. That is not something I will compromise on. So I want a man who speaks life over me, who knows the word, who is getting into the word, who knows how to speak truth, to be able to, lead and help me make decisions, help me, figure things out. I want a man who's repentant, not perfect. If my husband or my boyfriend or my fiance screws up and does something wrong, I want them to feel like they can come to me and be like, hey, I repent for this. I completely screwed this up. My intention is to be more like Christ, and I am going to work on this. I'm not looking for a man that's perfect. Why am I not looking for a man that's perfect? Because they don't exist. I'll be searching for the rest of my life. And I don't want to get married at 58, guys. I want to get married as soon as God says I can and brings my spouse. So We need to not seek perfect men. We need to seek men that are actively pursuing being like Christ, because those men will apologize, repent, and work things out instead of just stuffing things down and hiding things. And just a quick side note, we also need to be the women that men are able to come to with their issues, with their sin, with things that they struggle with, and we give them grace, because we are not God. We need to issue forgiveness and not issue judgment. Now, if things are going on that are definitely more of an issue than we need to stick around for, that's a completely different story, but I just want to make sure we know we're looking for repentant men, not perfect men. Okay? So, pursues purity and leads us both into purity. I do not want a man that says, oh, well, you can do this and this and this and this, but we're not going to have sex. I'm like, no, there's a whole lot of sin that happens before actual intercourse, right? There's a whole lot of lustful things and physical activity that can cause sinful desires and awaken things that shouldn't be awakened and open up footholds to things that I don't want footholds for. So, seeking purity and leading us both into purity. Seeks God for himself and leads me closer to Christ, not further away. Every single guy that I have dated, I have been pulled away from Christ because of the decisions that we were making instead of being pushed towards Christ. So that's going to be a major thing. If I look at myself and I look at this man, am I feeling pushed closer to Christ, or am I feeling drawn away from God? He is clear with his intention and does not cause confusion. Jesus is always very clear. God says he is not the author of confusion. If a man is saying he wants to marry me, he wants to pursue me, he wants to have a life with me, and 4 years in, I still haven't been proposed to, I think he's just feeding me lies. Been there, done that, don't want to do it again, okay? A man's going to show you what he is actually wanting with his actions. Do not believe his words. Women are the exact same way. They're going to tell you one thing and do another, but you need to watch for where their words and their actions line up with both, because you do not want someone that is going to lead you into confusion. And the final thing is actually pursuing me. I am looking for a man that is going to pursue me like Christ. I want him to plan dates and to want to hang out with me and to tell me what his intentions are, like I said, but also to be the one that is moving the relationship forward in a pace that is designated by God, because he is in prayer and is seeking to make sure that what we are doing is honoring to God.